The demo for Heroes of Might and Magic, the Olden Era, or sometimes Olden Age, I'm liking to call it, is out and everyone can play it. I have been playing it for the whole weekend and want to give you my first thoughts. Now, with that said, keep in mind that this is not a mole thoughts video, not a review or anything. This is just a demo, but there is already quite a bit in the demo itself. There are 4 races in it. There are 4 maps with various sizes, and you can play the whole game, right? From the beginning to the end. There's no time limit, no turn limit. You can just play it with what's there. Now, unfortunately, that also means that the game has been postponed into 2026. We don't have a new date now. It's just next year. I assume early next year now. But this is your best chance to have a look at the game yourself. It's, as I said, available for everyone on Steam. And the game is good. It's beautiful. Like, I have played it and I really enjoyed it. That doesn't mean that there aren't some issues here and there we would definitely talk about. But the first impression was, oh my gosh, this is Heroes of Might and Magic. Sometimes down to a fault, but it is Heroes of Might and Magic, and I'm hoping that this game will have the impact to not just introduce a lot of new players to the Heroes of Might and Magic series, but also to give a lot of people a nostalgia boost like I got when I played it. And it really feels like it, right? Like you're choosing your faction or your race, and then you were choosing a hero. There are tons of heroes there with different perks. They do the similar thing depending on the race you are playing. Like there are only a few unique heroes per race, right? And a big chunk of the heroes you can actually choose are all doing more or less the same thing, sometimes in a little bit of a different variation depending on the race you are playing, but that's to be expected, and I'm okay with that personally. But yeah, you choose a hero, then you're going into the world, you're managing your kingdom. And for everyone who has never played a Heroes of Might and Magic game, let me make something very clear here. Even though Heroes of Might and Magic is a 4X game, it is definitely one of the fastest 1X game, 1X, lol, 4X games out there. You can finish a round in like 4 to 5 hours tops, depending on how you play, how much you know, of course. And that was always the case, right? That was always the case with the home games. And some people liked it, some people don't. I always enjoyed it because that meant I can actually finish a game and don't have to play for days or weeks, even though I also enjoy that sometimes. But it's definitely different than what you probably know from most 4X games. But yeah, you're building up your kingdom, you're collecting resources, and the most important parts are the fights. You're fighting a lot in this game. Is it against neutral enemies, or is it against other players slash AI? Well, that's up to you, of course, but there is a lot of fighting, and it is very important how you manage your armies because there is a limit on how many units you can hire per week. And so that means if you are wasting your units, you are without an army, right? You cannot just build infinite units. Like, this is always one of the most important parts in the home games. It's not necessarily the resources you can utilize, it's the amount of units you have per week. And they have also changed how you can get more units. I was actually walking into that trap. So if you were an old Heroes of Might and Magic player, then there were always buildings and ways on how you could increase the amount of units you would get per week. And so I was looking for that, and I was like, huh, that's weird. There's nothing here, right? And it turns out, yeah, they have basically changed on how you get more units now. You have to go outside of your base to collect like much more spots, which are giving you units. But then there's also how to call it. They call it the law system, but it's basically a talent tree for your kingdom. And in that talent tree, you will have things which will increase the amount of units you can recruit per week. But we will talk about that law system in just a minute here. But yeah, it's definitely one of the things they changed and I was looking for, and I was like, hey, where are the buildings? What's going on here? But let's talk about the law system, right? So the law system, which you can also see here in the background, is the new system on how they are managing a bit their progression. So it's not just units and the units are getting stronger, it's also the laws you can enact. And your main building is mostly producing law points per turn. And when you have produced enough law points, you are actually getting, let's call it the talent point, and you can invest that into this tree. And there are tons of things you can choose from. Is it economic power, or you increase the power of your units and how many units you get, and so on and so forth. And so you can make your own decisions, like in which direction do you actually want to push your kingdom. And this is also increasing your power on the map. Another thing they have greatly reworked from previous Heroes of Might and Magic games is the spell system. So this is the spell book, and you can see in the background. And you are still getting the spells by visiting a mage guild. That hasn't really changed. But now you have to upgrade the mage guild, and you have to buy the spells with the in-game currency, right? With the, I think it's the dust, I always forget the name. And with that, you are buying the spells you want. And that leads you to just having access to different spells from different schools. So it's not like in some of the previous Heroes of Might and Magic games that, let's say, you are playing the Temple faction, that you have to go with daylight spells. They are, of course, heroes which will become stronger when they are using daylight spells, and you want to focus on that, of course. But in general, you have now much more freedom to choose the spells which make sense for your playstyle, and it's not that much bound to the faction anymore you are playing. Balance wise, feels good. Like the tier 1 units are all usable, especially if you upgrade them. I like the idea that nearly every unit now has an ability and they have some passives they're coming with, which again makes even the low tier units good later on in the game, because they might give you, there is like one temple unit which, when you are upgrading it down a certain path, is giving every unit around them defense buff, right? And that's pretty cool because the unit itself is not that great, but the defense buff can really amplify some of the stronger units. And you even want to have like some of the lower units, the lower tier units with you. And I really enjoyed the upgrade path now you can choose when you are upgrading them to the next tier, that you can switch it around if you so desire. And this whole system felt really good. I also enjoyed the combat. As I said, the abilities they are now bringing with them, they feel cool if you can use them. That's the biggest problem. So, as I said, nearly every unit has an ability, and that costs ability points. How do you get ability points? By receiving and doing damage to the enemy. And unfortunately, at least in the demo right now, how you acquire those points, especially at the beginning, you never really use the abilities because you don't have the time for it, which is so unfortunate, because that makes even like some of the weaker units even weaker than that, because they are, sometimes you will have an upgrade path for unit which makes you choose between more stats or a really, really powerful ability. And most of the time, the stats are better right now because it takes far too long to get the ability activated. And then when you're at the point where you can do that, you have already reached the spot where you win or lose anyways, right? So I would love to see that, you can acquire them much faster, especially because it's not just your units which will use those points, but also your hero if you're choosing to do the attack. And you will just always go with the strongest unit using their strongest ability because you don't have enough points, right? Because they're all using the same ability pool. And yeah, that's a bit unfortunate. They have to work on that, but that's a balance thing and not really too much of a big deal. So what is my biggest concern right now? My biggest concern right now are definitely graphics. They are trying to go for an old school pixel art style, but also 3D. I saw some people calling the art style AI or mobile, and I'm like, folks, I'm it's really unfortunate that we have reached a point where this particular art style is being associated with those things. It's basically the Pixar art style on how they are drawing characters, right? Very colorful, human but not human, right? And it's a bit unfortunate that that art style is now associated with bad things like AI or, well, mobile. I personally enjoy the art style. Also, is very reminiscent of League of Legends, which I always enjoyed the art style of. And I think the art style is not really the problem. The problem is the difference in quality sometimes. If you are looking at the Temple faction, which you have seen here in the background, then they look beautiful. Beautiful details on all the units, on all the cities. It's an absolute beautiful thing to behold, and I definitely was sometimes sitting just in the city and look at it like in the previous Heroes of Might and Magic games. And then I played the Schism faction. I also played that on stream, and man, the Schism faction has, I think, multiple art issues. Like the first one is a lot of white and a lot of snow, and the units are already blue, and that just blurs into each other, which is not great. And then all the buildings look the same. And not only that, they are also using like a 2D JPEG portal in front of the buildings, which looks absolutely abhorrent. And I played the Chisholm faction first, right? And I was like, ooh, is that what they are going for? Because this looks not great. And then I played the Temple faction, and I was like, oh wow, huh, this is very different, right? Like absolute beautiful. The other factions are also fine. It's mostly the Schism faction they have to do a pass over again. But yeah, the art style in some areas, when it comes to the quality of some stuff, definitely needs some more love. But that's really the only thing I could complain about. The rest, I have to play more, really, to give, like, it really comes down, I think, to balance. This game will be great or not so great when it comes down to the balance. But from what I have seen in the demo, it felt good. And I'm glad that Heroes of Might and Magic is back. I'm glad that we are getting another chance on Heroes, which is a bit more like the older games, right? It definitely feels more like it. But I also have to spend more time to see how it goes, which I will definitely do when we are getting into early access next year. But with that said, those were my thoughts for now. Definitely check out the demo yourself. Well, there's no reason not to. You should, if you want to get a good feeling for it. And I would say it's worth it. And even if you don't enjoy it, well, it was worth it for you to find that out, right? So definitely make sure to check it out. With that said, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave a like. And also let me know down in the comments what you think about the demo if you have played it. I would definitely know and love to see what other people think about it. And also, if you're new to the channel, you want to see more strategy games, then you came to the right place, because that's what we are focusing on here on the Mole Under Management channel. And I would appreciate if you might consider to subscribe. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe. Bye-bye.